everyone. My name is Ilan Katin. I am an artist. I got into crypto art stuff in 2018. I do a lot of different things, but I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about Dada. I got involved with Dada through a friend of mine named Lenara Verlet, who and both of us were really interested in alternative economics and art. Specifically, Lenara was studying and doing research on artists who were using currency as a form of art in their work. And we were both really interested in these topics. And Dada had approached Lenara Verlet has a website called Coinspiration, and Dada had contacted her because they read about her research in this area and reached out to her, and via her I ended up drawing on Dada and became involved in Dada pretty heavily because of my interests in my knowledge that I've acquired over time about what is money and what are economics in general, and what role art plays in that, right? And they had this sense very early on that Dada was trying to do something that no one else was trying to do, which was try to support artists in ways that the crypto art scene may not necessarily go that way. There was something much deeper than just the monetary reward that it was seeking, and by that virtue of the original idea, it reflected that. So DADA.art is basically DADA.art on a basic level is a collaboration, a drawing collaboration platform. And it was founded by the co-founders were Bea Ramos and Beatriz Ramos and Judy. I'm not going to give their full names because I can't get all the names out of my head right now. And it started with just the basic idea of someone making a drawing and then someone responding to that drawing, and so on and so forth. So what you see in this screen here in the presentation, can you all see that? Is that drawing?
Yes, it's showing.
It's showing you like a bunch of conversations, and each rectangle is an art drawing by an artist, and then the following one is the response to that drawing, and so on and so forth. And there's like 15,000 drawings on Dada. And the drawings are made with a tool that's on the platform. This is very different. You can't import images. You can only draw. And this activity engenders a sort of commitment that comes about when you draw and someone responds to you, and then so on and so forth. The need to communicate becomes through drawing. It becomes the sort of a very strong and powerful connection between people. Like, you can go on a Telegram group or you can go on a Discord and have a chat with someone. You might have something deep to say, or you could also just be reckless. But in Dada, that's almost impossible because it's really difficult to draw on the platform sometimes, in the beginning, especially if you don't know how to use it. And with time, you invest the time, and as you invest your time, it gives back to you by people responding to you, and you become more engaged in the community through that simple act. It's not so simple act of drawing through, like conversing through drawings. So it's never about I'm the great artist, I'm going to go on and make a drawing and it's going to be amazing and my masterpiece. You create masterpieces together. So this basic idea was started in 2014. It was launched in 2014 by Bea, who was previously ran an animation studio in both Caracas and New York, very successful, and doing a lot of commercial stuff like M&M, 3D animation, stop motion animation, and realized one day that while she had made lots of money, and hired had employees and et cetera, et cetera. She didn't. None of the stuff that she did was her own. It wasn't her own work. It wasn't her own art. It was something that she was hired to do, and then when she was done, it was done, and she got money for it. But it wasn't fulfilling that need to express herself, right, as an artist. And so she just stopped everything and started this new adventure in having a drawing platform. And so that's when in 2014 it was launched. And this is a video of once it was launched, people started to join and draw together online. And these are some of the kind of some of the artists. So one of them is based in Kenya. There's some people in Chile, some people in Italy, some people in the United States, and it just kind of started to grow not extremely quickly, but it started to grow and it started to bring people together. So like in this frame here is on the right at the last frame is a woman named Sereste. She's in Italy, and the guy on the left is Moxara, who's from Mexico City. And Moxara, for example, later on in his association with Dada, later on from as crypto art came along, he also went into crypto art, and other artists and Dada became involved in making NFTs. So the connection between Dada and the blockchain is early on, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. So it's been around since 2014, and then we tried different ways early on to monetize this digital drawings. How are we going to take this website and all of the wonderful contributions that are there, the contributors, and provide for them? That was kind of the basic idea. The idea originally was like a basic income for artists. And around that same time, around 2017, Bea started to hear about blockchains, and this is the early version of crypto art. is a crypto asset using the Bitcoin blockchain network called Counterparty. This is really the first NFT. Before they even were called NFTs, they were called crypto art, and it was this whole thing of basically creating digital assets that were memes. Such as rare Pepe, the Pepe phenomena, and tradable rare Pepes. I don't know how many people are familiar with this technology. It's quite old and still running. People started to sell these little digital assets, which were kind of more as not so much as a sort of the way we think of it today as a sort of huge amounts of money, just small bits and things, because it was like a game. It was like having fun. But then it started to become very serious. So around 2017, the idea of having digital rare art started to circulate, and Bea was one of the people who were blown away by this. And this is this is Ethereal Summit, and you can see here on the screen a little yellow arrow, and that's Bea at the Ethereal Summit. And she immediately saw the potential of this technology to what we call capture value, right? And what do we mean by capture value? What we mean by that is like being able to do what we do now, which is create NFTs and then sell that and then get money for it. But then the bigger questions that weren't being addressed, and she thought were very important, is how do we capture it not for just the individual artist, but for the community as a whole? So they entered the blockchain field with this kind of ideology or thinking. Then sort of like they got into this rare Pepe thing and how that was exploding, and around the same time the CryptoPunks were launched. I don't know how many people are familiar with CryptoPunks, but it's the first rare Pepes were on Bitcoin network, or the Counterparty network, and CryptoPunks were launched in 2017, and this was on Ethereum, and they were actually quite close. They contacted the people from CryptoPunks, and then they asked if they could share resources in terms of how these contracts for how the contract worked for CryptoPunks, and that was the basis for the first collection, the Creeps and Weirdos collection, on Dada. So it was a market. Now, it was the first, unlike CryptoPunks, which was like more of a kind of a PFP thing. Crypts and Weirdos were the first, were art. So it was the first blockchain art project where it was really specifically art. It wasn't just some kind of collection. It was really artists making art and then making additions. And the other thing that's really important to know, it was also the first platform to provide royalties for the artists, to code into the contract royalties. This did not exist before. So they did a split. I think it was like, so they had like, okay, so it's October 2017. We tokenized the first collection of ERC20 tokens, the Creeps and Weirdos, 108 curated drawings by 30 artists, mostly from Latin America. In addition of 1,600 and 600 tokens with 5 levels of scarcity. We created a decentralized marketplace adapted to CryptoPunks smart contract. So this is the video that they launched in Creeps and Weirdos, and you can see, I'll just play it again just to see like what the collection was and how much the prices were for the editions. And so, yeah, the royalties there was still, to reemphasize this again, it was the first platform to code in royalties for artists. So there was an initial sale, and then the artist would receive the sale, and if any other resells, it would go to the artist. And that was seen as a solution a means to provide sustenance for artists, right? That was an early experiment, really. Okay. So there, my words precede the slides. So there is first code to royalties. I forget that, into smart contracts. So the DADA takes 30%, and the artist got 70% in the primary market, and the secondary market, nonprofit DADA takes 10%, 30% for the artist, and 60% for the owner. Right? These are actually quite large numbers. So if you think about it, like now it's like the standard is 25%. But the vision was early on to make it larger for the artist. So yeah, that's in the early version of that. So basically it's automatic, that. So then, as a result of this, they were invited to participate in the first Rare Art Festival in January of 2018. This event crystallized the crypto art movement and community. There was an auction at the end where a Homer pip is sold for $39K, and at that moment we saw that this was going to become a wildly speculative market. So here's the Rare Art image. This is like the Rare Art Digital C&W. We're seeing Creeps and Weirdos, and we're the image for everything at that festival. The place we feel that the community came together. So that was the real beginning of it. But this thing about the wildly speculative market was a concern. So non-fungible tokens allow us to track each individual contribution, and on a piece of content, different NFTs from different projects can be layered in one image that anyone can own. So there's another kind of early on experiment where you could have a CryptoKitty, and the CryptoKitty could actually collect art, right? So actually, it's an NFT with an NFT, right? So this was the collaboration with DADA and CryptoKitties and Kitty Hats, January 2018. So this thing of showing combining NFTs is also like an early innovation in terms of what DADA was doing. Now that's pretty common practice. Like on Known Origin, you can have NFTs within NFTs. You can do all that kind of funny stuff. Oops. So then, as a result of this activity, DADA became thought leaders in this space, speaking at NYU, Ethereum Summit, Christie's in London, South by Southwest, Prague, Patagonia, for example, and the whole really is just spreading this idea that we could create an equitable system for artists on the platform, and just to inspire people in general. So it was just a very busy time jumping around and doing presentations on presentations and panels and panels. So DADA has a large art community on the Ethereum blockchain. There's 170,000 registered users worldwide. You can see like there's Mexico City. We had an event in New York, the Dreamverse thing, Prague, and then I've become involved as well around that period. So we have a worldwide community to try to meet people in real life in person, and it's kind of also a really important aspect is when we do get together as DADA people, it's a real community. In fact, we just did recently yes. Okay, we did the historical NFT fest in Barcelona this past fall, and I had a friend who's a friend of mine who I got into crypto art. His name is VJ Enter, and he's not in DADA really. He's not really. It's not his thing, but he saw. So. Okay. So engaging the community in more experimentation, we organized drawing performances, which we streamed live. This one was an auction of the piece called Sight Unseen, which was being created as people were bidding in a channel auction, which is a combo of English and Dutch auction. In the end, Yogi, one of the two top bidders, suggested to the pool their bids to give more to the artists. One of them, Simon de Riviere, had to create a special multi-sig contract so they both own the work together. So the video auction in 2018. So basically, the drawings were being made, and while the auction was being done while the drawings were made at that moment. So you'd think that's something you would think naturally one would do, but DADA was one of the first to do that. And also, there's a thing about generosity too. When you get people coming together and having these conversations. And showing people that there's people involved and there's a process that involves people, I think it generally it inspires people to be generous more so than if you can't see the process. Oops. So another live drawing performance was done in the Tate in London, which I was actually one of the people who was involved with that. So how do we capture the value that we create together, and that is not only economic, but cultural, social, communal, and emotional? How do we preserve our community from the depredations of the market while growing and capturing the value so that we can all partake in it? So this was the live drawing and the London and Tate. People from different parts of the world participated in it, and including a new piece which was called DADAgon, which was a new piece of our party, which was actually, so we're talking about 2018, we had an AI doing drawings for this conversation as well. And you're going to hear more about DADAgon in the near future because we're doing more experiments in this area of collaboration. In fact, DADAgon, now I think if you look on the upper left part of the screen, and then on the third row down is DADAgon, and people are responding on DADA to DADAgon's drawings. And this is still going on currently on DADA. You can go on and see DADAgon's drawings and respond to his drawings. So it's sort of like a little kind of like motivator for people. Like sometimes you go on, I mean, I never need motivation when I'm going on to DADA because there's so many drawings that I know by different people, and I check out what they've been doing, and I'll come in and I'm eager to respond. But some people really like interacting with DADAgon. DADAgon is actually, what's also really special about DADAgon is it's not looking at the internet for images. It's just looking at DADA drawings. So it's a shared resource. It's not grabbing from other images made by other people. I mean, it is doing that, but it's doing it within what we call the commons of DADA. Because at the moment, like DADA is a commons. It's not. It's owned by all the people who participate in it. It's not. There's no. Except I guess if it's an NFT that's sold, that belongs to the person. But in terms of the resource of DADA and all of its drawings, it's a shared common resource. So it's actually DADAgon is also part of that community because DADA started it, and it's using what's in there and remixing it and whatever AI is going on there, and it's a nice symbiotic loop because as we make more drawings, it sees more of us, makes drawings based on those drawings, and then we respond to it. So that's an interesting thing. I still haven't developed an emotional connection with DADA.art yet, but some people are quite taken with him, or it. I'm really sure. So this problem of economics and money was early on realized that that the crypto art system of NFTs, as we call them now, wasn't really going to address the issues of it wasn't going to be able to encompass everyone potentially who. And in DADA, if you're in it, if you're involved with DADA, you should be protected, basically. That's the way we saw it. It's not everyone for himself. And to kind of address this issue, when we saw like what was happening with the market, the highly speculative market, we needed to come up with some sort of way of addressing that issue. And this was the Invisible Economy, which was written by Bea and done a lot of research. We've done a lot of research in this area and determined that there's a white paper which you can read. I'll provide a link later, of separating artists from the art market, allowing artists to preserve what we call intrinsic motivations instead of being motivated from extrinsic motivations, meaning that you do things because you love doing them, you volunteer your time, and then that is what draws you to draw, and not some kind of external motivation like the market that's demanding you to do something that you don't want to do, or you're adjusting yourself to match what the market wants you to do. And this to our mind undermines the idea of freedom, of autonomy. So the problems are extreme inequality, meritocracy, star systems, the transfer of wealth, commodification, capital gains. So we know, for example, that the royalty system. We did some early data analysis on this even before, like sort of we retrieved it from Super Rare, that actually the profits of resales were going to shift towards being more profitable for collectors than for the artists at some point. And we did see that tipping point already. So this was another kind of data point. And also this kind of all of these elements of the star system and meritocracy, like they inevitably they excluded people. There's someone falls through the cracks, and it's not like you're not working hard. Like artists work very hard on doing what they love doing. So the question is like, how do we provide the environment for people to do what they love doing, and like survive, so to speak, or even thrive. Actually, it shouldn't be about survival merely. So we had a whole bunch of different meetings. We don't call them meetings so much as deliberations, where we talked about these things for hours on end, and had some really interesting people show up who were interested in token design and alternative economics, and we came up with this incentive framework. So, and all of these things kind of revolve around each other and feed into each other. So you have like the commons resource, the extrinsic motivations, fairness, community, like all of these things kind of overlap. And what you get is a sort of kaleidoscope of what it can be. And so when you have this kind of constellation, you create an environment that is very nurturing, So here we are. So incentives versus so the extrinsic and quantitative incentives. So if you have artists and you have a sort of hierarchy, and you have collectors at the top and intermediaries, the price, it basically creates this kind of scarcity, creates a speculation. And there are very few winners in the end. So with the invisible economy, it's different. You have intrinsic motivations. So the action and intrinsic motivations, the action itself is the reward. When you draw, that's the reward, is being able to draw. And then when someone responds to your drawing, that's even greater. Like that's a sort of more like it's almost like a gift. Like when you're gifting something to someone, it's much more, for me personally, it's much more precious to give a gift than to receive a gift. I'm more inclined to want to give than to receive. And so that's what creates a bonding between me and other people, is that gifting, constant gifting. So we have that. When you have that, you have an abundance, because everybody's always ready to help each other. And the outcome is that you have a safety net. And it's not the value isn't just stored in monetary terms, it's also stored in terms of community and helping one another. So we had to come up with a new language for this, and we have this contribution metrics. And this is still a work in progress, where this is not the final thing, but the idea is that we have different types of value, different types of things that are valuable that we can visualize. So here, for example, is sort of like an example of what happens. So who's there, and what are they feeling? What are those different values that exist that give us a sense, a whole picture, gives a full picture of what people are doing. So if here, for example, are mapping contributions, so you have here an example of how much visually, how much people felt involved, right, as a feedback mechanism. And this is to me much more rewarding to look at than, say, a chart with numbers, or top 10 collectors, or top 10 are sales of artists by artists, etc. Like a ranking system. This is not a ranking system. This is like a badge of kindness and beauty. You should, if you're creating art in general, everything should be beautiful. That's kind of the idea. And these representations are a fuller picture in our mind of what it is to contribute to a community. So we're in the process of creating the DADA community and trying to visualize these things. This is a value chart, flowing value chart, and then we understand how through time, and all of the various aspects that we are now. This is kind of overwhelming, I know, but if you go into the details of it, basically what we determined was that we have various events over time, and they're grouped into various areas, and we can see all the connections that were made between all of these different things. And for example, in terms of success, like the red parts are where things were blocked and not working. And this way we can really evaluate what's going on in a community. It's not just numbers. But you can more detail, like how things connect to one another. For example, NFT Creeps and Weirdos, and it goes in the connection into Bea, and then it ends up in the Kitty Cat DADA collaboration, right? And then as a result of the Creeps and Weirdos NFT collection, Art Gnome, Jason Bailey, wrote an article about it. And then because of that article, it went into the Rare Art Fest 1, that was featured there. And in that Rare Art Fest 1, Bea was a keynote speaker, and she was on the panel, And then you can see how one thing, 100K drawings, connects directly into the invisible economy through this long flow. So you really get to see, usually with art, you usually don't see all these connections. You don't see, if you look at an NFT simply and you're just staring at the artwork, it can be very beautiful, but you don't understand what all the dependencies were to make that happen. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make all of those things tangible. So basically, we're in the transition, right? We're in a transition between Dada becoming from what it was, which was a company, into a commons. That where everybody has a say who participates in it. So we have this thing called the DADA.art, which is a Creative Commons treasury that's attached to the smart contracts of the Creeps and Weirdos, the various collections, and it's tied into this DAO where eventually the idea is that the whole Creeps and Weirdos market would become a decentralized marketplace that's run by the people who contribute to it or are members of it. And it's a protocol. And this I don't understand so well. This is, I hope, so anyway, I hope this encourages you to think about the kinds of value that you create in this space. And we recently did a poll with DADA.art about the influence of NFTs in their lives. And while monetary influence is obvious, the one way they chose, the one they chose was more important was creativity. And I think that's something to reflect upon. like what is it that really motivates you to do your work? I mean, I ask myself that question a lot, and as being also, I'm involved with Dada, but I'm also involved with the crypto art world, and I always question like what it is that is motivating me to do things. Is it merely monetary, or is it more than that? I think to my mind, artists in general, you really like you might do commercial work, but there'll always be an element where you just I find myself getting distracted by some other project where where it's feeding my soul, you know. And there's not many ways to collaborate, I think, in general in the crypto art scene. Like, I mean, you can collaborate with one or two other artists, but Dada is the only real one that's like really centered on collaboration in a major way, and we want to continue doing that because it's just so fulfilling to communicate with people like that. It's about those connections. I'm finding that more and more as I go on being involved with Dada. And it doesn't mean that you have to go on Dada and draw if you don't want to draw or you don't like drawing. I know that it's intimidating for people to not be able to use Photoshop, for example, right? But it's important to think of ways in which we can change our sort of very fixed ideas about value and monetary value and how we spend our time and what motivates us on a daily basis to get up in the morning and do stuff. Yeah. Hope this was helpful. If you have an interest in invisible economy and you have questions about it, we have a Telegram channel. Boria, are you still there?
Yes.
Boria, okay. Where can I put the link for the invisible economy sense-making chat?
If you wish, you can drop it in the chat on the right side. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you can join this group. Lenar Verle, who I mentioned earlier, is in there, and a bunch of a small group. We had this actually when we started the Invisible Economy project. That was the starting point for a lot of the discussions, and we had a lot of interesting people coming in and from the crypto art community, and then we had this thing called the Ape Storm. I don't know if you know what that is. Basically, what happened was that we had we had the Creeps and Weirdos collection, and we had taken it offline because we decided that this was not how we wanted to proceed, and we shut off we didn't shut off the contract, but we just took the store offline, so there was no interface for it. But during the NFT boom of 2021, someone found this contract and they started to buy works from it, and basically we kind of had a windfall as a result of that whole scene, and the windfall was for Dada and its artists. But as a result of that, we had to shut down the original Invisible Economy, DADA Invisible Economy group, and it was archived. And we lost because of that, we kind of lost this direct communication with the crypto art community at large, and on Telegram. And now this is a revival of it, and we really invite people to come in and ask questions and contribute and get involved. Initially, like the system of DADA is that you go and you draw, and then as you get dots, you become more committed to DADA. But there are other ways to get involved with DADA as well. I mean, that's drawing is one way. But if you have something to contribute and you feel motivated, there's other projects that we're involved with, like doing VR stuff, and we want to develop like an animation tool as well, where you can draw at one frame. Each person draws one frame, and then it plays on a loop, so you get this kind of loopy collaboration. I can't think we call them data loop at this point. Even just all of our sessions where we have governance sessions, and we have sense making sessions. We have they're all Google Meet meetings, and anybody can come in and show up and listen in and contribute. So the doors are always wide open at DADA. So please do, if you have any articles that are interesting that you feel are aligned with the way the DADA ethos, great, all the more merrier. So yeah,
Ilan,
I think I'm any questions?
Yeah, Ilan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Martha. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm super, super energized. And I wanted to jump in and just say that I want to collaborate with you guys or figure out a way of plugging into your project. I wanted to share that I've been doing a project since 1994, that is called Musical Table. It's a version of musical chairs. The idea nobody is the opposite of one chair being short. One chair is about everybody being included and nobody being left behind. It started out as an exercise I came up with for my students, and it's very similar ideas, like what you're talking about, where it's not about having a perfect drawing, but it's about having a collaborative drawing where we all help each other out. And I've been doing this over the years. It's been that one consistent project that I've been doing that has transformed from the breaking the ice exercise in first day of class with my students to exhibitions and performances with different groups of people, bringing them together, getting them on the same page. And there was one that was called Flag of Us, US, kind of a play with words, that came out when there were like some kind of exclusion things going on that were very explicit. And I've been thinking about how to with the technologies, like to make this more to bring, like, actually during the pandemic in particular, I thought it was something to bring this project. It's actually happens in physical space, but I would like to go into this other realm of collaboration with in the virtual space and with different tools of merging things together. I really very energized and excited about what you share, and wanted to share a little bit about my project and who to connect with. I had seen Bea a while ago and was following her, but now here we are on the vertical crypto, and I would love to connect with you guys and see if with this one we work with music too. We collaborate with musicians, so it's like, and also with food. Kind of bringing all these activities of languages that we all communicate with. So how should I mean, can we be in touch? Can we Can we?
Join the Dada Invisible Economy sense making chat as a start, like just so you can start. I mean, you can go in there and share what you're doing and with with the group, and then we'll take it from there, I guess. Like we actually have, it's really interesting because we're doing a project. We're doing a project that's going to be kind of like an occupation of a space for 2 months, and some of the ideas you're talking about might be interesting to see if we can work on that, to collaborate on that, cooperate them as part of DADA.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm excited. What link is it that I'm supposed to go through? I know you said.
I sent it on the chat. It's in the chat on the right part of the Discord. There's like a residency voice chat channel. There's like a little on the upper right. You'll see like a little chat box on Discord. If you open it up, there's a link in there.
Now, is that something that's going to have talk ends that I can find later?
Yes, we're going to share it as well. We're going to share it in the main chat as well. You might have to open it through your phone to join Telegram if this is where you have Telegram, but don't worry about it and drop me a line if you have difficulties afterwards.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Great. Always inspire.
That's great, Martha. Thanks so much for sharing that. Anybody else have any questions for me? Yes. Una, here's a question. I texted it, you're going to chat it in. Struggling to unmute. A few weeks ago, I was in a meeting and I was like, it was a meeting and we had a Dada with a bunch of people and I just started rambling on about something and I didn't realize I was muted. It's like
I know, it's like so funny to feel like I'm so tech forward and then I can't figure out the mute button. My question was kind of more just like a abstraction of, I guess, the ethos of Dada and how you see kind of information sharing shifting over the next course of time. Like, I think in particular, we've already witnessed in NFTs and in crypto art kind of like a siphoning of power or a siphoning of information and it becoming more consolidated. So these ideas in which you mentioned in the talk, like an NFT embedded within an NFT, these are things which, if you're on the inside of the information, then you have access to it. But there does seem to be like a growing disparity between how easy it is to plug and play with smart contracts and the people who are currently controlling them. So like when you look at Dada and where do you see the kind of power of information shifting? It's kind of an abstract question.
No, it makes sense. I mean, like, it's heartening to what's heartening to see is that things like Manifold come along and just say you should have your own contract. I think that's, you determine where the flow is going, but it doesn't go far enough in terms of inspiring people to be generous with one another in meaningful ways. So surprisingly, I have another side project with Lenara and some other people from Dada. Most of them are from Dada. It's called Stateless, and it's basically a cooperative NFT platform. And the idea there is that whenever there's cumulative sales, it doesn't just go to the artist, but it also goes to support the platform, and everybody who is on the platform as a minter also receives something. Now imagine if Super Rare had this, right? With the amount of volume that Super Rare has, everybody who contributes to Super Rare would receive something from Super Rare, even though they had no major sales on the platform. I mean, there was another person, I don't know if you're familiar with the artist Oficinas TK from Portugal. He actually was one of the people who started Stateless before he left, and he left the platform. But we started that project, and he has a collection called the TCBA Gallery. It was early CryptoVox's gallery. Yes, Hidden Forces knows it. We've seen this. And what he did was he sold an X copy that he had in the collection, and he gave half of it he distributed to all the people who contributed to the gallery. It's like people who gave art, contributed freely their art or other artworks that they had in their collection to the gallery. So every one of us got like 4 ETH, you know. Now that's really not that's not heard of at all, really. And that's what Stateless is attempting to do, is create a cooperative platform called, it's actually a framework that'll be open source, that anybody can take these contracts and start their own cooperative, you know. And DADA is what, for me, this is like a really simple idea, right? Actually, like that no one is doing. What DADA is doing is way beyond that even. Like, it's just so far ahead in terms of thinking about how value is stored and distributed and how it's accumulated. Just completely, it's way ahead. It's so total ahead. But I do see like things like Taya, for example, that everybody says Hikitunk is dead, but Taya actually is the successor to Hikitunk, and they have it. A percentage goes to developing the further development of the maintenance of the platform. So it's already, this thinking is already there. It's just slowly, people are slowly registering this idea that we don't have to like not only a few people can capture all the value. Like we're getting to this place where people are realizing that we have the power to do these things with this technology. And I mean, things like Holochain, for example, where your data is your data. You if you don't like the environment you're in, you can take all the data with you and go and plug it into some other thing, right? And that's another like thing into the future. Like, for example, DADA, for example, one day will be using. That means that there can be hundreds of different DADAs running simultaneously. They don't have to be connected to each other, and the data that you contribute is part of a commons in that group. But once you leave that group, you can take the data with you. Like, this is also, if you're talking about abstraction, there is a lot of that going on. I don't know if
this is like Hacker's Manifesto. No, it definitely does. Basically. Definitely does it. Yeah, it's very much like Hacker's Manifesto. And it's also so interesting, you know, just the link between capital and value. Right. And how do you kind of make an art that doesn't have such a strong link but still demands such attention? It's mostly a question that I'm trying to ask. No, thank you. Really appreciate it. And I'll hit you in the Telegram.
Hi, I think DADA, I know Sipa Drone. She's an amazing photographer. I think that's one of the most beautiful and wonderful projects I've ever known. I started on the platform in late 2020 without a graphic tablet, without having minted in any marketplace, and without being a drawer or illustrator, just a photographer. I barely make some coherent lines when I try to express myself doing 3D. That's not true. I like your stuff. But the beautiful thing about DADA is that no one is judged by their ability, and it's like a big family. Where all criteria are heard, and will always be someone who understands your language, even if it's simple and very visual conversation. I consider DADA as a space of meditation and infinite creativity. Thank you. Sorry. It means a lot to me. Sorry. Very, very eloquent words. Thank you. I'm feeling verklempt. All right. Anyone else have anything to add? Yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
No, silent. I don't know what after that. I don't know what to add. Oh yeah. So hold on a second. Let me get that for you. Oh, let me see.
Thank you. And it's wonderful to see you getting emotional about this. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had the HNFT platform, HNFT, the Historical NFT Festival in Barcelona, and it was a DADA project completely, and it was like it was really focused on the early NFT innovators for the most part, like OGs and like the Pepe people, and seeing all those people together in one place, everybody really being there because they love being there, and they were loving the communication and the sharing of information, which was kind of really the ethos early on in crypto art and the sort of blockchain art, so to speak. And to see that joy of everyone being included and being recognized, and it was really powerful. It's not just data. It's you can see it in even on Twitter. Even though there are people who are using Twitter in crypto art in ways that I don't agree with, like there's passion there, there's fire, and we created it. We all created it, and we all should benefit from that. Yeah, that's it for me.
Ilan, I've got a question. This is a question.
Sure.
How are you doing?
Yeah, question.
Sorry to intrude. A great pleasure to be able to meet you, Ilan, and to see your face in person, and to get an explanation about the invisible economy of Dada. Obviously, your invisible economy seems to, of course, respond to the precedent set by the original Dadaists in the early 20th century, who were very anarchic and demotic in their attitudes towards art. But of course, the circumstances of social transformation at the time meant that Dada eventually broke apart or disappeared. And I'm curious, I guess this is a fate that befalls all literary movements to some degree or another over a decade or two. Eventually, they begin to lose their steam or disintegrate, or people go their separate ways. I'm curious how you might feel about the future of your project. What do you have in mind or planned for the future of it on the one hand, and how might you implement some strategy to maintain its cohesiveness or endurance and persistence despite these kind of centrifugal forces that tend to break up collaborative community efforts? I'm just curious how you foresee handling yourself now as a real artistic movement of the 21st century. What does that entail for you?
That's a great question, actually. Thanks for that. It does weigh on me quite a bit. I mean, I always read these kind of different movements, artistic movements, surrealism, and various other movements. There are many of them since then. And, it's always like, oh, this guy was involved with this movement, and then eventually, like he disagreed with them and left, and, and so on. And like this person was disillusioned with with what was happening and went and started his own thing. And I think that we can't know what is in the future. I don't have a crystal ball. I know that there are things that do continue on, and they just. I think what happens is you have to accept the fact that things change and transform, and that nothing is fixed. I think that the idea for Dada, as I mentioned before, with Holochain, is that we don't want it to become dependent on Bea and Judy or me. Like, we want to build a structure that would then be able to transform, change, be centralized, have other actors come and pick it up, take it in different directions. It's the not holding on to any kind of idea, fixed thing. Like, even as we've moved forward with our ideas and through deliberations, we take ideas and then we toss them out after a while because they don't fit what we're thinking at that moment. It keeps on changing. I think that kind of openness and also having some kind of basic ground rule, ground values, ground truths was a good guide for moving forward. and the knowledge of the past as well, that we've seen all these kind of movements fade and dissipate and grow big and then small. I think that it's helpful that we're kind of small in a way. We're not looking to grow. Some projects, they just grow so fast and so quickly that they just crash and burn. Like you want to kind of like smooth out those kind of ebbs, these like kind of extreme sort of growth and bursting into a bubble bursting. I think like Bea is very conscious of the fact that she can't do this forever, right? And it's hard. It's hard for someone who's held the vision for this thing for such a long time, and the long time in terms of like blockchain years, right? To let go, then, and this is what we're in the process of doing, is separating out different groups to do different things. You don't necessarily need to know everything that the other group is doing, just as long as there's a ground truth that we know, like we don't do X. X is something you don't do. Like that, it's true. It's true for you, right? So it's. I think for me, it's not being attached to a particular outcome that helps actually sustain, and also, yeah, it's I think it's just a wait and see kind of thing, It's like surfing.
Past precedents, usually everybody gets about 20 years, in a really solid literary movement or artistic movement. I founded one that lasted for about 20 years before it ran into trouble. And I mean, one of the dangers, of course, is that people, when they see something shiny, would really like to participate. But in the course of doing so, also, command part of the levers or the steering wheel. They want to have, some governance and control. They want input that changes perhaps the circumstances under which you see yourself having founded this thing that has an idealistic vision. And of course, as you said, you don't want to be attached so much to it that you can't change direction. But it seems to me there's core values here that are really hard for people to surrender, and might be constantly shaken by the transformations of the technology.
Again, DADA is
that's
not
what
for
I'm pointing
everyone.
to. Yeah. I'm very curious
DADA
about
is
how
not for everyone. It's not
what it means to be you right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, DADA is not for everyone. It takes a certain ethos and a certain frame of mind. I don't really see it as an ideology. I just see it as trying to arrive at a place where we are not where artists are not beholden to market forces.
Yeah.
I think that's a really simple thing. I think that the problem with our system now is it permeates everything in our environment, and it's impossible to think that there's any other alternative when there are indeed many different alternatives. And we're looking for those things, and we are constantly searching for them, and that has brought together a bunch of people who find joy in what we do every day. I mean, we are all there because we want to be there. There's no question about it, right? And I think that has a possibility of having an enduring quality to it. That said, it could dissipate in, like you say, 20 years, 10 years. Well, I don't know. But
I like the energy of it. I think it's great that you're having fun doing it, and I don't know. It puts me in mind of the anarchic impulses of people among our group, even including the likes of Una, for example, and others. This seems to be a kind of a perfect fit for a lot of us. Anyway, thanks for your indulgences with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for your indulgence.
I think you would transformed over time. I'll share that my project it has transformed over all these years, but it continues to have one particular quality, but it has transformed certain things over time. And being that it is a collective that involves many people, I think that it has more of a potential to stay alive and to take on
kind of that. Yeah, it's super important that it be distributed, and that everybody has a place to contribute. I mean, it's not easy to get involved with DADA. That's why I would say it's not for everyone. It's a real commitment. Like you really, you have to. It takes time and everything, and relationships and trust. All those things take time. They're an investment of your time, and it's not for the faint of heart to some degree.
You know, this makes me think. I think about a lot in my work. A lot of projects that repeat over time. I mean, I feel like my project, there's like this cycle time that they just stay alive, but they are dormant too. But I see them as, and I always think about like the thing that you said. I think so. How do you set up the infrastructure so that it just functions on its own at a certain point? That's the ideal thing, I guess, in a way, or infrastructure that the potential of transforming and evolving and kind of being alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's an important thing. Is the aliveness and the vitality, right? And then it isn't dead somehow. Yeah.
Oh, it's alive. Yeah.
Alive.
Alive.
Yeah. Anyone else? I see that a bunch of people joined the group, so that's exciting. And then it suddenly alarmed our security officer. Very funny. All right. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone, for your attendance in this thing. Really appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you so much, Ilan, for spending the time with us and for sharing the class with us, and for your work at DADA and with everything that's going on in the world. And we're looking forward to amazing new um, sunrises for the artists and the community.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much, Boria. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.